Ho Chi Minh and strategic vision. These are probably unforgettable memories for the people of Hanoi in particular and the people of the world in general when B-52s could cause chaos anywhere in the world, but were shot down a lot. In Vietnam, no one can understand why a small, backward and poor country can tactically shoot down flying fortresses. Not everyone knows how the Vietnam Air Force Air Defense did it to defeat the B-52, but of course the Air Defense and Air Force cannot do it overnight. There must be a very long strategic vision from President Ho Chi Minh as early as 1962. 10 years before the U.S. brought the B-52 to attack Hanoi. President Ho Chi Minh called up and asked the Air Defense Commander, Comrade Phung the Thai, "Do you know anything about the B-52? "Yes, I don't," Ho Chi Minh replied, "just saying that. I know I can't do anything about it. It's flying 10 kilometers high and I currently only have anti-aircraft artillery in my hands. But right now I'm the commander of the Air Defense Force. Must be closely monitored and constantly paid attention to this B-52 aircraft. This is also the first milestone marked in the work research. How to fight B-52s by air defense troops." Since then, Comrade Phung the Thai has begun to research the B-52, and at the same time instructed agencies to operate using every way to collect information about the effectiveness of the flying fortress. Questions like how to attack B-52, how to attack if it enters Hanoi, lingers in the minds of all the leaders and the entire army. In 1965, when the Soviet Union began to provide Vietnam with weapons such as SAM-2 missiles, President Ho Chi Minh met with comrades in the Air Defense Force and issued instructions: if you want to catch a tiger, you must join the ranks. Tiger only has to carry missiles and go to the battlefield to fight B-52 to know the results before sitting at home and calculating the theory. Everything is only on paper. In September 1967, the 238th Regiment shot down the first B-52 plane over Vinh Linh, Quang Tri Province. I don't know if it's due to luck or because the level of Vietnamese soldiers has reached a new level. But clearly this is a ray of hope to show that the B-52 is not something inviolable like the U.S. advertising it can still be shot down. When Uncle Ho heard this news, he was extremely happy. So President Ho still went down to the army to give strategic guidance to the Air Force comrades that, if only there is hatred for the enemy and the spirit of self-sacrifice, because the country is not yet victorious enough, you must pay attention to training a lot of scientific and technical officials and study the enemy carefully to win 100 battles. This is probably an understatement of President Ho. Because by nature, enthusiasm alone is not enough enthusiasm, but combined with lack of understanding, it is only sabotage and cannot do anything. When Comrade Phung the Thai was appointed to the position of Deputy Chief of the General Staff of the People's Army, Vietnamese people at the end of 1967, Uncle Ho called again to emphasize: once again, sooner or later, the U.S. imperialists will send B-52s to attack Hanoi, and if they lose, they will have to accept this situation as soon as possible. As possible in Vietnam, the U.S. is certain to lose, but it only accepts defeat after losing in the sky over Hanoi, and in order to research how to fight the B-52. Simply standing below and launching missiles to test is not enough. Even carrying a MiG-21 up, chasing each other with a B-52 is impossible to keep up with, just like using a bicycle to chase a motorbike. That's why President Ho had another strategic directive: to protect all American parachute pilots, even if they were imprisoned, but to give them special treatment. The standard for Vietnamese officers and soldiers is 68 Vietnamese Shu a day. But first, for American pilots, they had to be given 1.6 dong a day. And the weak were also given a special allowance of 3.2 dong a day, later raised to 7 dong a day. The amount of money for food a day at that time was a very large number because the salary of the head of the provincial police was only 115 dong, and when promoted to colonel, the food standard was only 1.2 dong a day. If you look at the way the pilots were treated, the US also could not understand why President Ho Chi Minh entertained this team so expensively. The first reason was because the pilot team was very well educated, so their general knowledge about aircraft was very good. Well, more or less. They understand more about the B-52 than the Vietnamese soldiers. They are very valuable documents, so we can find a solution that will definitely solve the mystery of the B-52. When we can resolve B-52, we will solve the problem of national liberation. Second, in terms of relationships, American pilots are all children of generals and colonels who have extremely high positions in the U.S. So if they are treated disrespectfully, the pilots' families in the U.S. will find them. If you have every way to respond at that time, difficulties will pile up because people make decisions with emotions, not with reason. No matter how wrong America was in sending troops to fight Vietnam, when the American generals brought up their personal vendettas to respond, it was very difficult to avoid the feelings between parents and children that were always one. Something very sacred. Third, President Ho also considered that after liberation, if he lost, the U.S. would embargo Vietnam. At that time, how could he escape development? At this time, there were only American pilots. People who are well educated, have intelligence and power. They are the ones who stand up to communicate to the whole world about Vietnam, which is a very peace-loving country. Vietnam is a very good friend of the world, and everything that President Ho outlined always makes people still unable to understand why it can be so perfect. Comrade Mac Lam Chin was the one who exploited the information of hundreds of American pilots captured at Hoa Lo that day. Intelligence agent Mac Lam Chin's customers at that time were none of the B-52 pilots. However, with his professional sense, he understood that exploiting pilots of tactical aircraft such as the F-4 and F-105 would reveal many things about the B-52, because this team is also the team that goes around to protect the super fortress flight, through exploitation and careful checking of each pilot's testimony, including veteran pilots with 5,000 to 6,000 flight hours, including one who was a high-ranking American commander, Mr. Mac Lam had in hand out thousands of pages of necessary documents on the features and characteristics of the B-52 aircraft, with its inherent advantages, disadvantages, electronic technical equipment, as well as the ability to carry bombs and other types of bombs. B-52. Basic formation of a B-52 range. Composition of a B-52 raid. A certain target and the area expected to target the upcoming raid. Flight paths in all directions from airbases in Japan, Thailand or Guam Island to Hanoi, the aerial refueling area, the airborne command post, and the B-52's retreat route are all carefully documented. Having information is extremely necessary for preparing to respond with the most appropriate blows. Sensitize the pilots, allowing them to understand how they caused heartbreaking deaths. At the end of the war, the pilot most mentioned around the world was John McCain, who was captured alive in 1967 at Truc Bok Lake and imprisoned at Hoa Lo prison. But with his talent, in 2008, John McCain was the one who ran for U.S. president against Barack Obama. It was John McCain who campaigned for the U.S. to lift the embargo on Vietnam in 1994. Lobbied the U.S. to lift the trade embargo. Trade has been imposed on Vietnam after 19 years. In 1995, diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Vietnam were officially resumed in October 2015. The U.S. lifted the partial arms embargo on Vietnam. These are proofs to show us how great President Ho Chi Minh's strategic vision was. If in the past we treated this team of pilots poorly, we don't understand how Vietnam has fallen now. Thanks to President Ho's strategic vision, the military and people knew how to carefully prepare to welcome half of America's B-52s in the sky over Hanoi. The question is why the B-52 battle in 1972 is compared to the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in terms of unclear mechanics when the 1954 battle and the 1972 battle are two completely different battles. The answer to this question is, this is because this is a comparison to express the nature of the problem. Both battles created a huge turning point for the country, forcing its opponent to sit at the negotiating table. That is also the reason why. Why is the battle on Tet Holiday in 1972 considered the aerial battle of Dien Bien Phu? After that battle, the U.S. was forced to return to the negotiating table and sign the Paris Agreement.